Hardly anyone denies the Kosovars have a right to self-determination and to have a home of their own. What does worry many is the claim that Kosovo is an exception. All frozen conflicts are an exception in one form or another, and the Kosovo precedent could prove that there is an exception that could turn into a rule for others to follow. Western support for Kosovo's independence has been strong and consistent. The international community agrees this problem should be settled. However, it is wary of any unilateral decisions.
It shouldn't be an unmanaged unilateral declaration. It should be one that's coordinated with the international community. But it's a decision that we have to look at in great detail here as European leaders. But the process cannot be subject to an unreasonable veto.
For some, this approach may be full of good intentions, but then there are other frozen conflicts, and local leaders may turn to Kosovo as an example, and this could have dangerous consequences.
I think it's a likely development. On the other hand, there is a growing understanding, I think, especially in Europe, not in America though, that independence of Kosovo is a dangerous thing, and it is a dangerous precedent, whatever different governments say.
Kosovo's international supervised independence will surely be felt within Europe and strengthen separatist movements on the continent. But the real and immediate impact will be felt in the post-Soviet space. Georgia's breakaway republics of Abkhazia and South Ossetia have wanted independence since the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991. Both these conflicts are different from Kosovo in some ways. However, there is a fundamental similarity: minority peoples feeling to be imprisoned inside a newly independent state against their will. Additionally, the separatist territories have de facto broken away. This is a political reality on the ground. What applies to Kosovo also applies to Abkhazia and South Ossetia.
You cannot have a future in a region, in an area, if people who live on both sides of the same street do not speak to each other, look to different capitals.
Today, Abkhazia and South Ossetia have nothing to do with Tbilisi. In fact, both regions are slowly, and for the most part quite willingly, falling into Russia's orbit. For the populations of Abkhazia and South Ossetia, future status means anything but a return to Tbilisi's control. Much of the same could be said about Transnistria. Transnistria, like many places in the former Soviet Union and most of the other frozen conflicts, started out as an example or intentional policy to put different ethnic groups at odds. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the heavily Russian-populated region didn't automatically turn to the newly independent state of Moldova. It looked to Russia. But this does not mean Russia supports independence for Transnistria. The fact is, Russia does not support, at least for now, the independence of any post-Soviet frozen conflict.
Russia supports the territorial integrity of Moldova. It's got no interest of recognizing a de facto state. It doesn't want to break up Transnistria and divide Bessarabia and Transnistria. It's complete rubbish when you say the official position and the plan Putin's plan is to make a new state of Transnistria. That's complete rubbish.
However, if the Kosovo precedent is to become reality, Russia's position may change. The Kremlin has made it clear international law should not accept exceptions, but should be applied universally.
No one is going to recognize Transnistria, and hopefully Putin will never recognize it. The European Union won't recognize it. I mean, recently when Putin was speaking about Kosovo, which was quite interesting, he said, why recognize Kosovo when then you've got to apply the same standard, universal standards really. And in international relations, if you recognize Kosovo, then there's potential to recognize Transnistria.
First, there's a choice: twist current or invent new international law. Either way, the law of unintended consequences will surely only be one step away. Serbs and Kosovars are divided and in a state of deadlock. But if Kosovo is granted some form of independence without direct acceptance of the Serbs, then the international community will find itself divided and will have opened a Pandora's box. For the EU, the US, the UN, and NATO, the ideas of self-determination and the sanctity of borders may no longer have much use. But for those aspiring to achieve what Kosovo is about to gain, the struggle for both will remain worth the effort. That is all from In Context.